Record. Hello, the random people of the internet. My name is Lord Tokai, and I want you all to know that I am 100% a problem.
And I am Nagini, spicy space symbiote from 5 galaxies away and 200 years in the past.
And this is our first episode of Millennial Monsters, where we talk about whatever is on our mind or whatever we're into at the time. Uh, Today's episode will be about black companies and let's be honest, Niji Sanji.
Uh,
It's
yeah.
definitely Niji Sanji. Like, so as you get to, we're PNG tubers, but we're still technically VTubers. So we still
Mm-hmm.
fall under that category. So we have the right to talk about this. So
Oh, yeah.
I definitely know some things about Celine's issue and Niji Sanji making the shitstorm of a problem that, they created for themselves.
Hmm?
Uh, I don't know too much about what everything else is going on because that was like the one thing that I seen, and I like watched a couple of videos like going in depth about the whole situation, and it's fucked, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit.
My my entry point into all of this whole VTubing thing was being a Niji fan to start. Okay.
Mhm.
So I've kind of been in it with them since December with the whole controversy, like Noctix fans just getting over Yugo's graduation, the whole controversy with the seventh Wade XLA's Zion Manza being terminated.
Mhm.
Like, I am up on the business with them. And and so this whole thing, and ever since, and I shit you not, ever since I had come in and they canceled that giant international collab of Selens, I'm like, Niji is shooting themselves in the foot because, like, no, because Selen is the one who puts all the shit together. Like the Niji WWE SmackDown, that
Mhm.
was Selen's thing, and that was one of the funnest collabs I think I had ever seen from them.
Ah,
So I had, and people didn't want to hear this, but I'd been saying for the longest time, it's like if they keep pushing, Selen's gonna go, and Selen is part of one of the first waves of the Niji Ian branch.
yeah. I so what got me into the whole thing with her was that I seen an article about the tweet, and I'm like, oh no, where they fucking tweeted for her while she was in the hospital.
Oh, see, now that was something I actually didn't see.
Oh, so it's when she had taken a quote unquote break, and nobody
Mm-hmm.
heard from her for like 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
on her Twitter she's like, hey dragoons, I'm fine, blah 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 blah, hospital stuff, and I can't wait to get out so I can start streaming again, something like that. And then it turns out like one of the like somebody picked it up like really like Reddit type of sleuthing shit
Mm-hmm.
where one of the letters is only used in like one of the way the letter is only used in Japan. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, that's not normally in her tweets. What the hell is on that? And then we find out she was in the hospital and they had taken access from her Twitter from her while she was in the hospital. And all of a sudden in December she had put that tweet out when she didn't have access to her social media. So
Ah.
they took her access and tweeted for her saying, "Oh, everything is fine, guys." And I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Well, technically, which I just realized it like December of 2022. Good lord. Anyway, I just realized it's 2024.
Yeah, that
um,
there was a segue.
is when I
Like
came in.
weird thing is like I was making something to eat and I realized because I saw it on Alexa and I was like, yeah, 4 days after 4 years after COVID. I'm like, damn, it's been 4 years.
Right?
We've been in this fucking pandemic for 4 years. I remember when it
Yeah.
first happened.
I will never forget when it first
Yeah, me
happened.
neither.
But
But anyway.
so oh. because the reason why it was significant, because we're talking about December 2023, in which when I was talking about me coming in, I came into this in December 2022.
Mhm.
Um, just to clarify for listeners. Um, that said, so the whole like quote unquote break thing is actually like there's a point in time where it came out, and I think it was actually when Zion graduated that
Mhm.
she did the typical, I mean, this is typical of indie creators, but she did the whole like twit longer thing about how what was going on with her, like why she lost everything, like how she lost everything with it. And sometimes when Niji members do go on breaks, it is because like of medical leave, but sometimes it's because they're suspended,
Mhm.
but they call it hiatus.
Yeah. Um.
So
Yeah. So,
so whenever there are members who are in controversy, now that the fans know, at least the EN fans, it's like, oh, why are they on hiatus right
mhm.
now? Which for some of them, if you're a close watcher, you'll know. For example, Kyo Kaneko, who recently graduated, he had a lot of health issues
Mhm.
coming in. And so him going on hiatus wasn't necessarily a surprise. Like it's actually encouraged because it's like take care of your health first.
Right. Of course. What
But
was it? The Celine thing. The reason why she was on break is actually because she
she was
tried to
hospitalized.
she was hospitalized because she tried to end herself.
Yeah.
And it was like, what the fuck is going on? And it's like it comes out like she was being bullied. The Niji Sanji branch was had taken down her video for her music video that she funded herself.
Yeah.
And in some of the documents it was like she did technically get the okay to do it, but not when they wanted her to do it.
Yeah.
So that's like that was like sort of like the start of the downfall for that, from what I've learned. And I'm just it's like, oh, and oh my god, did you see the quote unquote stream when Celine became Doki Bird with
I didn't.
Vox?
Okay, I did watch that after the fact. And let me just say, like, no, no, because and I said this on my own Twitter too, is like Vox, like Ike and who
The new girl.
no, no, she's not new. She's one of the OGs.
Oh, she don't.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. Um, darn it. I didn't really watch her. I feel so bad. But they did it on her channel too. But
Yeah.
no, they should not have done that. And the thing was, it's not a they it was the worst timing because there's no way any of them could have not known that Doki Bird was having her comeback stream.
Yeah.
Okay, first of
They
all.
did it on purpose. That was on purpose.
Second of all, like by that time, like myself, like a bunch of other people, even Doki Bird herself thought it was squashed in the public eye. Like
Yes.
they thought it was squashed. So what ended up happening is I think because of the whole thing, because as I've said before this whole thing happened, that once Selene left, it was going to be a fucking shit show. Um that they just wanted that attention back because the numbers are going down. They
Mm-hmm.
because of that whole situation, there have been like fan artists that have who've sold merch like or who've made art for merch that have pulled from the company
Mm-hmm.
because of what EG did to Celine.
One of the funniest things about that is what they had published something saying, oh, with her being terminated, it's not going to be a huge issue, we're not going to lose that much money, so it's fine. I'm
No.
like, you don't know how things work, do you?
No, because and I had granted I haven't really gotten to watch many of the livers here lately, at least the ones that I had watched a lot because just different time zones wanting to cater to different fans. It's understandable, especially
Yeah.
when it's like your main job. Um, but viewership on some of them has gone down.
i I mean, like with the stream on whoever whatever her name was, this channel, I was like, I was looking at them like, they're really throwing her under the bus.
Yeah,
Like,
and let
because if
me
they
actually.
wanted to actually get a lot of people to tune in, they would have did it on Vox's channel, but they didn't.
Yeah, yeah, no, and let me. This is gonna make me crazy if I don't
Hmm.
find who this is.
Um, while you're looking that up, I'll just, you know, I don't. It's so bad. Like, it's so terrible. And then the lawyers leaking what was supposed to be confidential, documents was fucking terrible. That was such a bad look.
It really was. Especially because one of the main things that it was Illyra Pandora.
Yes.
Um, which was also messed up because if you look at Illyra's model and you look at Selene, they were similar, with a
Mm-hmm.
little cute little like wing like hair thing. But anyway, yeah, no, they threw Illyra under the bus, which Illyra was one of the first waves back when they were releasing mostly all girl waves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so they did kind of throw her under the bus. And the fact of the matter is, and I have said this before, and I'm sorry to do that aside because like
No,
it was
that
making me crazy.
that's fine.
Um, but God forbid that Vox Akuma graduate from Niji Sanji because every time some shit hits the fan, he's the main one in the front, like who's kind of like trying to simmer it all down.
Mm.
Like if you look back at just about everything, he has commented on it to a point that, and he's such a likable guy that it's like you're like, okay, well, like this is not okay. But Vox explained it, XYZ way. Granted, with this particular instance, though, I'm not as forgiving just because of the timing of it. That was fucked
Oh
up, and
yeah.
they know it.
And
But
it wasn't a live stream. That was definitely pre-recorded.
yeah,
And what really made me mad about it was that when he was talking, he was like, "Oh, we looked over the documents very thoroughly." And it's like you weren't supposed to look over those documents.
yeah, those were not for your eyeballs. That was
Exactly.
yeah. Well, and the thing that irritated me about it was that Illyra had very clearly noted that I guess there were threats of doxing and how they were concerned for that. But it's like you pretty much almost fucking doxed Selene
Mm-hmm.
by showing this document briefly on your stream.
Yeah.
Like that's why she stopped her stream and had to call her lawyers because they showed redacted documents.
Yes. Which is
That
completely
should have
bullshit.
Yeah, that should have never been a thing. And the simple fact that they tried to come back later and be like, "Oh, well, our lawyers like went through XYZ and it actually wasn't technically illegal for them to do that, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "You shitheads, like you
The thing
like
with
you
that is
can't
like
get
it's
around this."
well, the thing is like in Japan it's a lot looser with those type
Right.
of confidentiality laws and shit like that. So they technically can do that without getting in trouble. That's why it didn't blow up the way it should have
Which
because mhm,
that's weird to me because technically I know Niji is originally a Japanese company.
mhm,
Um But what's shocking to me is like even if you're like functioning internationally, which and maybe this is something about global business law that
yes.
I'm not well versed
Hmm.
in this, but it's just like would it not seem that since this is pretty much all EN branch related, which a lot of the talents, I mean, I know like Vox and Ike are in the UK, I think.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of the EN branch being NA, would it not stand to reason that, especially if Selene was in NA, that some of the US laws in regards to releasing that information wouldn't be a thing unless was the case being handled in Japan, was the case being
It
handled in the US?
well
That
technically, so I worked for a medicine uh, company a few years
Mhm.
back. Our parent company is Daiko Senki, I believe his name was. It was a Japanese company, and we had to adhere by them. So I believe that they have to answer to the parent company when it comes to legal stuff before it goes over to the branch that they here in the States. So I
Ah,
believe that it was being handled in Japan before, like they have to get the okay to send it to the US branch because they answer to the Japanese mother company.
see, and that's the thing that I think gets muddy too, because there are a lot of things that it looks like mismanagement from the outside. It looks like mismanagement. It looks like because they have to, the EN managers have to send it back to home office in Japan, and then
Mm-hmm.
home office has to send a reply. But the livers had already mentioned something. And so it's like, well, I wanted to do this, like, but staff on hasn't gotten back to me. And it
Yeah.
was like, so
So it seems like
like,
mismanagement to us, but in Japan, that's normal practice.
right.
And that's the
Um,
unfortunate part about black companies in general. They skirt
yeah,
around the laws and abuse systems to make the most that they can.
yeah. Um, and it's crazy to me that I don't know, just that whole thing. I not even so another thing too is that even though it wasn't technically illegal, like I'm not gonna, or at least like, but from translating from across, since this is like a multiple country company, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
step away from the legalities of it and go more into just how that looks.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
it looks terrible, but the problem is that they have the money to just throw that aside. It's not,
but
it hasn't got to a point where it's as damaging as it should be. So
I
they're
don't
just like,
know.
it's slowly like it's escalating because more stuff is going to come out and then that's going to hurt them in general. But right now you have your Niji-san stands who will not accept, that Niji-san is a bad company. Like, mhm.
See, and that's one of those like blind loyalty things. Because to me,
It-
me personally, I like I will watch the livers. I will support the livers directly, but any color Niji Sanji does not. Because I feel like if I personally, as a viewer, like as a consumer, I want to I would cut off a company, say if this were like a Walmart or something.
yeah,
But the fact of the matter is, a majority of the work is coming out of what the talent is putting into it. So thereby cutting off the company completely,
will
we're
be,
pretty much cutting off talent who are like pouring their hearts and souls
yeah,
into it, who are in the um
standpoint of
unfortunate
being
situation
there.
in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um But all that being said, it does come down to their bottom line, though, as you're saying, because I don't know if you saw the video that Riku Tatsumi came out with, not even 24 hours after they posted that video on Illyra's channel, after the whole issue with Doki Bird,
Mm.
and her comeback stream.
Was it the apology?
Yeah, it was the apology, and
The
if you
one that was
notice,
meme to fucking forever?
yeah, yes. But if you notice, the very first group of people he apologized to were the stakeholders.
Yeah. Because the stakeholders were the ones that were like, hey, just one tuber is leaving. This won't affect us too much. And then he realized that they lost a lot of money because of it. And it's like, hey, we're sorry, guys. And it's
See,
like,
and that's the thing. Yeah.
the first people you should apologize to is the ones who are directly affected, not the shareholders, but Japanese
Yeah.
company. So,
Yeah, and I get, and that's a lot of the issues here too. I think is just how culturally different things are in a
yeah.
way. And I feel like that's where a lot of the headbutting comes when we start talking about VTuber culture
Hmm.
meeting Western culture.
Yeah.
Like there. there's a lot of friction. Well, not a lot of friction, but there's enough friction that it is noticeable, and it ultimately does come back to that friction leading to what was going on with Selene,
Yeah.
the return of Doki Bird, and the apology.
And so like I've been an anime and Japan culture fan for a very long time, and when I mean a
Yeah,
very long time, I mean a very long time. And
we're the same age.
yep, that was mostly for the people listening.
Gotcha, gotcha. Sorry, go ahead.
Also, side note, for anybody who's actually listening to this and don't know what a black company is, a black company, in short, is a company basically, mostly they're in Japan. They're all over the world, but they're mostly seen in Japan where they will abuse and use their workers to death, basically, and
Yep.
do everything in their power to make sure that their employees have the least amount of anything,
Yeah.
like, period. So that's when
Oh,
you say
yeah.
black. Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
So to add to that, like I was shocked, honestly, when I found out that when you audition and you get in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll see, you know, the elaborate models. Well, I think the models for the most part, like the talent doesn't get to choose what their model looks like, right?
No, they don't.
However, um anything leading up to their debut and things like that come out of their own pocket. So if they have a lore video, if they have certain assets, etc., that comes out of their pocket. And it became abundantly apparent with, and I don't know if you've seen Shuya Mino's lore video. It is the cutest thing I think I've ever seen. It is so funny. But he kind of did that himself in like a program, and you could kind of tell.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you look at, say, some of Exolay's lore videos, there is a lot of animation and stuff that went into it. And so it's like you have to that a lot of that came out of their pockets. And it's like, could you imagine going into this, like auditioning, going through the process, trying to come in and being super successful and realizing, oh shit, I have to fund thousands of my own dollars up front
Yeah,
to
that's
build
kind of
this character
ass.
that I had no, yeah, that I
That's
had no say in
ass.
what they look like.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's such ass. That's like paying to work for somebody and it's like, nah, we don't do that. That's fucking terrible.
Yeah, pretty much. That's basically it there.
I think
Uh,
that's also why it really rubbed me the wrong way when Celine was talking about the music video that she had funded. Like, it was like, oh, was it like 10 grand that she put into it? Like,
Roughly, yeah.
she put a lot of money into it, and they're like, oh, you did this by yourself, but we didn't say you can do it by yourself. But if we told you to do it, you would still have to pay for it.
Yeah,
And it's like, the
basically.
fuck? So
Um,
it's so fucking, it's such a stupid thing. It's kind of why I don't dive too much into the VTubing culture. Like, I love VTubing. I love VTubers. It's such a
yeah.
fun premise, and it's it's for the people who don't want to show their face, like, or they want to be
Yeah.
an anime character, like, how,
Yeah.
like, again, our name is Millennial Monsters. We're millennials that happen to be monsters, and how many times growing up watching anime did we want to be those characters? Like,
Oh, a lot of times.
I
Yeah.
could tell you that I sat on the fucking playground and tried to do a Kamehameha for fucking ever. So
Oh my
VTubing,
god,
so
yeah.
VTubing lets you be that way, but like, some of the culture here in the community is fucking terrible.
Oh yeah, it's already toxic just as the NA, at least on the anime side of things, because I think
Yeah,
that's what you were going to get into earlier. Um,
it's
just
so fucking bad, dude. And it's like I
yeah,
try to stay away from that, and it's just like it can't be avoided because just it's it's so stupid. Just let people do what they want. Don't try to fucking make people do things that they don't want to do. like the culture
Yeah.
for like this specifically, like I've noticed it. Like I don't take streaming seriously. I take it as a hobby,
Yeah.
so I don't put too much effort into it. Um, but it's like I notice like if you have giant tits, you know you're definitely going to get views, which is like that's the demographic that most people who watch VTubers want.
Yeah, that's one of the aspect. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and,
one of
and
the
it's
things.
like, and there's a lot more to being a VTuber and a streamer in general than just like what's flashy on the screen. Like some people have like bombastic personalities. That's what draws the people into them. Some people
Yeah.
have very beautiful models. Look at Shy Lily.
Yeah.
Like her model was amazing since day one.
Yeah. Fantastic.
But it's just like,
Uh
oh, you can't have this or you can't have that. You can't do this, and like the whole fucking, oh, this goes into Hololive territory with that,
yeah.
with
Oh yeah.
Gura, where anybody who's a fucking fish or a shark is copying Gura, and it's like you shut the
Right.
just shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
Yes, I get it. You like Gura. I mean, she's one of the biggest VTubers on the planet.
You know, I'm gonna be honest. I miss the days of those memes where it was like, oh, you're using hex code like AB411 whatever. My model uses that hex code. You're copying me. Like, I miss when we were memeing like that because that's back when VTuber Twitter was like it was dramatic, but it was still fun. Now it's just like sad dramatic. And I'm
uh,
talking strictly indie VTuber Twitter. I've gotten away from corpo since I've deleted my corpo profile just because
yeah.
of the amount of interaction that goes into that.
Hmm.
It kind of drowns out, your friends after a minute,
Yeah.
especially when they're not in that sphere. So, but I will say though, there is drama, but it is a whole different animal. And I will say this coming into this as someone who, like, remember when I said I started December 2022?
Hmm.
I was a diehard sickling. That is Hex Haywire's
Yeah.
fan names. And oh my god, the sickling community, bro. Like
Uh,
every other week, like that's part of why I deleted my corpo following, because every other week it was some controversy within them. There was some sort of fallout. The very first one being, I guess, because when Hex came out, because he's like the deep voice daddy male VTuber.
yeah.
That and that's kind of how people perceive him. I really try not to call people that. But anyway,
Hmm.
um the everyone was like, "Oh my god, like he doesn't have enough rules. He doesn't have X, he doesn't have Y, XYZ. He's going to be another Vox like da 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 parasocial like whoop
Hmm.
de whoop." So, the very first fallout there more or less had to do, and I was around for this actually. Like this was at the height of me being around for it.
Hmm.
There were a group of people who were like huge tippers,
Yeah.
huge. Um, like I'd say they'd spend like upwards of $1,000 a stream individually when you think about like dropping 150 gift subs and like 500,
Yeah.
like $500 donos. So when you get people like that, um, they kind of get in the thing where they want to control the situation.
Oh God, I'm sorry, but that reminded me of the OnlyFans guy who is like over the course of a year has like gifted the one girl like 30 grand, and it
Then,
was like he got to meet her, but all like it is like he got was a hug, like a side hug and a picture. While like the next day she goes on the trip using that money with her boyfriend, and I'm just like, what did you guys expect?
right?
Like, what
Like,
did you expect? Like, oh, she's supposed to throw. No, you did that to you. Shut the
no.
fuck up.
Yeah, no. So, and it becomes so, and that's the other thing about the corpo VTuber side is that, and a lot of the people that I follow on the indie side who are big creators that kind of like are put off to it, is that there's a level of parasocialism that's like encouraged in a way
Yeah,
until it's not.
not okay.
So in this particular instance, it came around to people are dropping a whole bunch of money, and then like they're trying to control the situation because I can't tell you how many times Hex has had to come back and be like, listen, I'm not your boyfriend, like I'm not this, I'm not that. And then, you have to play back into that fantasy of it. But the fallout pretty much came in after it was a Jump King stream.
Hmm.
Pretty much it got really sexual. So then there came a hashtag that came out that was uh what was it, breedlings or something. It was something like fold, it was something about breeding, right?
Hmm.
So then everyone's like, oh my god, like think of the children, like there are minors interacting in the space even though it very clearly says they shouldn't be. And it's like and so then it came out, one of the big three
Hmm.
had mentioned that's like, okay, yeah, like this was funny, but now like the whole it being over sexualized is like starting to get uncomfortable. There are people who agreed with them, there are people who disagreed with them. Like they all walked away, and then that was fallout number one.
Hmm.
Fallout number two was the pink candle incident.
I don't like
um
how that sounds.
Pretty much what had happened is because when you're a VTuber, personally I haven't gotten to this point since I make all my own shit.
Hmm.
um but you end up with a lot of assets, right? Like you end up
Yeah.
with a lot of assets, a lot of hotkeys, a lot of folders, etc., etc. So there was a point in time where Hex was using Scarla's background of like her basement, like dungeon kind of thing,
Hmm.
right? And he had a toggle for it was a pink candle is what we called it, but pretty much it was a rabbit vibrator.
Yeah.
Um, and so that became a whole fallout in of itself. And again, it was half the community was like, he's a grown man, he can do his stuff how he wants to. And then there's the other half the community that's like, they his like his little soldiers that go out and like, guys, like you shouldn't do this, you can't post this. And it's so petty, like the backhanded tweets and everything. I'm like, y'all are doing too much. Like, and that's it. Like, I still consider myself a sickling. I still like Hex is one of the first VTubers I've ever supported.
Hmm.
But yeah, but damn.
Just like Jesus Christ. I,
Like, so anyway, yeah.
no, I was just like, that's crazy. I have my own story about that, but I want you to finish yours.
Oh, but that's pretty much it. Is different. Um, there's a different level of drama, and I think it has to do with like the number of people who watch Corpo. And it's interesting because the stuff that someone would come into a Corpo VTubers chat, if they tried to do the same thing in an indie VTubers chat,
Hmm.
we'd insta ban them.
Yeah.
Truth be told, there'd be a lot of insta banning happening,
Oh,
but it's
definitely.
allowed to go on there because it feeds into that fantasy again until it's like, wait, pause. This is a fantasy. Some of y'all are getting too wild. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's definitely like with me. So the first VTubers I really seen were V Shoujo.
Hmm.
I enjoy V Shoujo. I know that there's a lot of bullshit going on in V Shoujo. Like there's,
Yeah.
but it's like I don't get into that. I'll watch VTubers here, there. For like, example, Iron Mouse. I watch clips. I don't really, tune into the stream. And
Yeah.
so like when that line gets crossed, it's like the whole thing between Iron Mouse and Connor, where it's like they're cute, right? They have
Yeah.
a great banter back and forth, and it's like if they get together eventually, that's great. But I'm not here like a lot of people like hardcore shipping them, making it fucking weird. It's like
Yeah.
they're close friends, right? Stop that.
Yeah.
That's fucking creepy. Um, I also like some of the drama that was in V Shoujo that is past, but it's still like an issue. is just like Gun Run is a good quote slash okay manager for V Shoujo
Yeah.
because it lets them like V Shoujo is great in the sense that it allows the talent to do what they want
Yeah.
without having to answer too much to the corporate side of it.
Yeah.
But some of the practices that do happen and some of the things that have come up have been like ugh. So like one of the first issues that V Shoujo had was that they were doing they were scouting. You know, they were holding open auditions and
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, cool, people audition, but the problem is that a lot of people were expecting to just get in. Like, oh, I auditioned, so I'm instantly going to be hired. It's like that's not how that works.
That's not how that works.
And then
No.
when Haruka Caribou joined, people were so mad. People were so fucking mad. It was like, oh, of course they they hired their friend. It's like, why wouldn't you hire your friend over a random person, that just applied? If you had the choice to like Haruko has spent years like cultivating a friendship with them.
Yeah.
And like yeah, that's what it happens. When you network very well, you get advantages over other people. That's just how that works.
Yeah.
Like, so when she got the chance to get signed, she took it, and V Shoujo took it, but people were just so mad about that. And it's like, you know, like what did you honestly expect? Let's be honest, you're a nobody that auditioned for a company,
Yeah.
and that was like one of the first issues, and I'm like, okay, that's iffy. And then the Silvervale thing happened, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of grimy people here, but
Yeah.
it's like not too bad because like in that sense, like you have to understand, it's like it's not like everything is just not black and white as you see it. Like
Yeah.
you have there's defending your friends, but also there's also keeping up your public image.
Yeah.
So like if do you know about the whole Silvervale thing?
I've heard about it here and there, but
Okay. So like the gist of it, like the TLDR is that Silvervale played the Hogwarts Legacy game.
oh yeah.
And there was a lot of LGBTQ people saying that because you play that game, you're supporting somebody who's transphobic. Even though J.K. Rowling basically had nothing to do with the game and also
Mhm.
got paid before the game came out. So technically yes and no, she does make royalties off the game, but not as much as you would think.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people saying, oh, if you support the game, you're transphobic, you hate trans people, this, that, and the third. And Silvervale's like, I just want to play a wizard game. Like,
Yeah.
this is a tax write-off for me at this point. So, but I also want to be a wizard, and the game is actually really good. And people kept coming into her stream, so bad mouthing her this, bad mouthing her that, and like there was just all this back and forth. And then the real problem lied into getting the support of the shojo. Like some of the
Yeah.
members, because they didn't disclose, but I know who it is, and I won't say anything about that. But certain members, like Silver, went to certain members for support, and they're like, we don't play the game, so we don't have a say in this, but you can do what you want, but on the flip side, it might be bad for you if
Yeah.
you continue to play the game. So she didn't get the support that she wanted. So she's just like, if this is how it is, I'll just leave the shojo.
Yeah.
Because there's people here I thought that would support me 100% for my decision, and they didn't, or they're being shady about it. So she left.
Yeah.
Then more people started leaving, which were Nanners and Vebe. Um,
Yeah.
and then the Vebe thing happened, and I'm just like, oh god damn it. And it's funny because people forget who like for there's like controversy over Manners in general, but everybody
Yeah.
forgets that she was a super racy person. Like she was very trolly and offensive on 4chan before she became a VTuber. Like she was known
Yeah.
before becoming a VTuber, and she was not a great person.
Yeah.
And everybody's just like, you all seem to forget that. And then the Vebe thing happened where it's like she comes from the 4chan era of people where it's like you
Yeah.
just say whatever you want at, you know, fuck what people feel. And she had
Yeah.
said the hard R word,
Oh.
you know, the R word for mentally
Mm.
challenged people. Like she called somebody that word and everybody blew up. And it's just like, mm-hmm, hmm. Yes, she shouldn't have never said that, like flat out. But
Yeah.
again, you forget where she comes from, so it's normal. And I don't think she meant it to be offensive, right? So like for example, for me growing up, that would be a word used for somebody who's just incredibly stupid,
Yeah.
right? Just for somebody who is just who does dumb things, doesn't have common sense, and that's what. But I don't use the word anymore. Like I stopped using the
Yeah.
word a long time ago. And it's like
Yeah.
there's some aspects that you have to understand, but also you don't have to accept. Like I'm not saying accept her because she said that. You know, you call her out for her bullshit, but it's just like people love drama and love to try to cancel people for a lot of things, and no one believes in like redemption at this point.
Yeah.
Like people can change. It's just they need time to change. But when you're expecting it like flat out, then there's the issue with it. So in sense, like I love V Shoujo. I love the girls that are in V Shoujo. They're fun. Each of them have their own, you know, things that I like about them.
Yeah.
But I don't like stand for V Shoujo, right?
Yeah.
Because standing for anybody is like really toxic, and you need to not do that.
Right. Like,
To the point where like especially if it becomes damaging to other people, like you need to really like think about it. It's like, oh, you don't like this, so that means you're obviously wrong. And people can't take criticism in general
oh, they
because
can't.
people don't like to acknowledge that they're wrong. So like if you don't like what they like, it's like an attack against them.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like mm, mm. Just everybody
Yeah.
just needs to fucking calm down. uh
Really.
it's just so bad. I can't.
Yeah. It like I said, it really it comes down to like you're saying, no one can take criticism. Like everyone wants to double down on stuff, and then the whole fallout happens, and the people who are like not at the extremes but are at the middle of the road are like, what the fuck, bro? Like we just want to
Exactly. We're
enjoy
just looking at
things.
it. We just want to enjoy the content. Like, let us just. Oh, if you enjoy this content, that means you obviously you hate these group of people or this group of. It's like no, that's
Yeah.
not how it works. Please stop. Just please,
Right.
just stop. And you know, it's the
Yeah.
stand mentality that also fuels black companies. For
Yeah.
like for the topic that we're talking about, just in general, V Shojing corporate, right? Hololive, Niji
Yeah.
Sanji, that other one that had the really creepy guy in it. The fuck,
The creepy guy.
the owner of the one not, the VTubing company. Like I was watching videos, I forgot who it was, and like I would take me forever to figure out what it was. But like he would harass the female, like because he only hired women, but he would like
Yeah.
make them be in Discord calls with him all night or like constantly make them play games with him. Like
Yeah.
it like the whole
R-
company was his harem basically.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
It's like
Yeah.
you're fucking gross, dude. Stop.
Right?
and also like a part of people in general, like this goes from that to back to what we were just talking about, just with the parasocial and VTubers in general. People don't know how not to cross a line,
Yeah.
especially for our lewd tubers.
Mm-hmm.
That shit gets so bad. It gets so fucking bad. It's like there's a time and a place, and
Yeah.
people don't understand where that time and place is. So
Oh yeah.
there's quote unquote a smaller VTuber. She has like 1,500 followers or something like that. I forget. I don't want to say
Yeah.
her name because it's, you know, fucking doing that is bad. But
Yeah.
she had a really big issue because I've been following her since she was like at 500.
Yeah.
And so her model has ginormous tits. She is a succubus.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the problem is that some people, especially the tubers that are have these models, don't make it clear enough to certain people to not do this or that. And she would have constantly people come into chat just like first words in chat. Oh my god, your tits are so huge. It's like
Yeah.
shut
Right.
the you no.
Yeah.
We don't do that. But it's like she would get
Mhm.
very upset and not say anything.
Yeah.
And she didn't have like her mods would be sleep by the time she streamed because her schedule was really bad. Like she had a normal
Yeah.
schedule and then it just, fucking spiraled out of control. So she would be streaming
Yeah.
like 11 o'clock at night when her mods would be asleep and she would have to deal with this. But the problem with dealing with it is also you end up seeing more of the stuff that they write. So it was
Yeah.
putting her in a very bad mental place. So she stopped streaming for months and then came back. And it's just like people, especially with lewd-tubers, it's like, yes, the whole thing is that they're very lewd, but why do you have to be fucking weird?
Yeah. And it, believe me, I know.
As for anybody who doesn't know, my beloved co-host Nagi is a lewd-tuber.
Yes. And
So she,
yeah, it gets pretty
oh, it's so cringe.
fortunate. I haven't had to deal with too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um please ignore my Reddit DMs off my audios. Uh
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, it does get that. And that kind of goes back into which, to clarify, I guess, not all loot tubers are sex workers, but quite a few of us are.
Yes, that's one of
And
the main
so,
distinctions people do not understand. YouTubers typically are just perverted people who like to talk about sexual content. They're not all sex workers. You have to
yeah,
understand the difference between that. So if you talk, like if you have a friend who likes to talk about sexual escapades here or talk about sexual things here and there, doesn't mean that they want to fuck you.
yeah, exactly.
Period.
Yeah. And it's one of those hairy territories you get into, especially when you do the BFE, GFE, boyfriend experience,
Yes,
girlfriend experience, like
boyfriend of it.
in
That's why I do the dad experience.
yeah. Um
But it
and
gets
it
very bad because people get attached so fast,
yeah,
and
and it doesn't even go back to being lewd, it's just in general.
yeah,
But and I think that a lot of that comes back to well, I can't speak to the behavior in this area before COVID, but post COVID, not saying that this is an excuse for this behavior. This is absolutely not an excuse for this behavior, but
no,
I feel like we're seeing more of it because of the amount of time people had to be alone in their houses.
yes, like
So
there's
they
a
became
reason for
statically
it.
online.
It's just
Yeah.
not okay. Like we're not
Yeah, it's not
saying
cool.
it's okay to do this, but we do understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
And
Um yeah, but on the flip side of that coin though
mhm,
too is, and I have And I've said this on my Twitter, and that, like, me saying that not all LewTubers are sex workers, that's not me backpedaling on this. You have to be careful when you designate yourself some kind of way, because there are so many of us that are. So I don't want to say don't. You just have to have, it's almost like you have to have a certain thickness of skin, a certain like
Yeah.
ability to want to put up with bullshit, because there's a lot of bullshit you're going to have to put up with when you start talking about May being a lewd tuber, making sus ASMR, having a fansly account, etc., etc. Like all of that is kind of capped together. And granted, there are some people who do have fantastic ASMR that do not associate any of their VTuber content with it. Like you just really have to be careful and pick and choose where you do the stuff, because and this is not me doing the whole victim blaming, like what was she wearing? That's
Yeah.
not it at all. Um it's
We
the
we don't
it's the
victim
whole,
blame. Just we're being
yeah.
clear. We don't victim blame.
Yeah, no, I'm being very clear about that. Um it, but it's just a matter of like really sit there and think about it, like think about how you want to present yourself, because and this is going to cycle back to actually corpo here, okay,
Hmm.
because this is not related to Celine, it's cycling back to Vox. um Vox Akuma had his persona because when Luxium first debuted, being the person with the deepest voice, he felt it to take it upon himself to be the one who gets sexualized. I guess to kind of take the brunt of it from some of his other gen mates. Because recently YouTube cracked down on some cracked down on a lot of stuff. And so there are quite a few of like Vox's ASMR videos that were removed for sexual content.
Yeah.
And for him, it was a relief that, because he had been thinking about it for a while, because that he did not want to be a sexual person. He did not want to be sexualized. And one of his fears was coming out like that, like what was going to happen to his community. Fortunately, though, like along the way, with setting so many boundaries and rules and etc., he did kind of weed out that number of people who would have left if he would have just taken them down and been like, yeah, no. But what I'm saying is don't feel like you have to be pushed into being some certain way because you're this or because you're that or because this is popular, because that is popular. Because ultimately you're going to push yourself in the corner. And in the case of Vox, fortunately for him, it turned out well. That he took a step back and was like, hey, this is
Mm.
not actually who I wanted to be. This is just who I felt I had to be.
Yeah. And people need to understand that's perfectly fine to do that. A lot of the problem with
Yeah.
a lot of people in general, especially people getting into VTubing, is they they're typically a person who doesn't know how to say no.
Yeah.
They're a very people pleaser, and if something works for them, for example, if they're lewd and it gets them views and a fan base, they think that they're stuck in there because if they ever leave, they would lose everything.
Yeah.
Um, you definitely need to be an upfront person about what you want, and it's
Yeah.
okay if you need to find it like as you're working on it. It's perfectly fine to build
Yeah.
yourself as you're building. You don't have to be set out right away.
Yeah.
And like I said, I only do this as a hobby. Maybe I'll get
Right.
serious later, but right now, I'm working a 9 to 5. I have
Yeah.
free time on the weekend. um Before, I was streaming a lot more, but I still wasn't really taking it too seriously.
Yeah.
So if you want to make it a career, then that's more power to you. It's just you're going to have to,
It's an uphill battle
yes,
because
definitely uphill battle. But also you
because I,
need, mhm.
oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you're going to need people to support you. So make sure you get like really strong mods that
Hmm.
will help you say no. Like me,
Yeah.
I don't need mods because like when trolls show up in my streams, I fucking tear them down. I don't give a
Yeah.
fuck. I'm a very
Yeah.
strong person just because, like, I'm 35, so I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of bullying. I'm also black, so I've gotten a bunch of racism, and
Yeah.
I beat myself out of that. And it's like, I'm a very strong person. Not everybody is as strong as I am, so it's harder for some people to be able to handle certain situations.
Yeah. Well, and even like just because like I said, I'm roughly the same age as you. I find there are times where I've taken step backs personally because I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it for fun, but part of me, yes, I want to build that community. Um, but I've had to take steps back on occasion to be like, okay, but is this how I want to do it? In that it's like there'll be things that I let slide that I'm like, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I shouldn't. Um, and so it's because and I do want to say this, I do want to say this, and everybody will say this, play whatever you want to play, right? When we're talking about like Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like just streaming, play what you want to play. That only has so much. mm,
That will only carry you so far.
yeah,
You,
because to be
unfortunately, you have to follow trends.
yeah, well, not even just that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the type of people. So personally, me personally, I like playing Genshin Impact. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing against people who enjoy Genshin Impact, but the people who tend to find themselves into Genshin Impact streams of Genshin Impact streamers aren't necessarily like everyone's welcome in my community, but at the same time, it's like, but in the long run, are we all going to fit?
There's
Like,
some
and I don't mean that
weirdos.
that I mean, and that's probably sounds like a bitchy thing to say, but it's I mean, there are thousands of streamers out there, and you can choose who you want to, but at the same time, as a streamer yourself, you have to figure out who you want there.
So, okay, so there's a segue with that. It's funny because I play on occasion Dead by Daylight.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
typically hate the game in general.
Yeah.
I used to play it years back when it was, pre-release in beta. I enjoyed the game a lot, and then a lot of changes happened, which made the game, to me as a competitive player in general, very
Yeah.
unfun.
Yeah.
And like a lot of my followers that I have on my channel are from Dead
Mhm.
by Daylight, but I'm like, listen, I don't play this game often, especially on stream.
Yeah.
So it's like I have gotten offers to get rated by certain people, and I'm like, but your community is mostly Dead by Daylight. I don't need that in my shit because I'm not going to get
Yeah.
stuck playing a game that I fucking am miserable playing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really just kind of the thing of it. It, you don't want to be stuck. I mean, granted, then there's also though, like you said, you do have to go with trends. Because me personally, I could sit there and I could play Stardew Valley and Vampire Survivors every fucking
Mm-hmm.
stream. I,
Damn right.
I could totally do that. Do people want to watch that though? That's where we come in the question of
It depends on what that person is looking for. If they're just looking
yeah.
for a chill atmosphere, then yeah, of course. But there's a lot of people that want super competitive players, and it's like, hmm,
Yeah,
hmm. It's like I
I
am
mean,
that type of person, but I'm like, I'm not that person all the time.
yeah.
I'm a very
No,
quiet, like when I play a game seriously, I'll get very quiet and I'll focus a lot. So,
yeah.
and not a lot of people want to fucking just sit there and just only see gameplay because, streaming is
Yeah.
about the personality mostly, unless it's
Yeah.
specifically what the vibes that they're looking for. If they're just listening to chill music and just enjoying a game, that's fine. Not a lot of people will come to a stream, especially if it's like there's no talking, which I recently seen some things and I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? Like
Yeah.
I've come across a couple of mute gamers,
Yeah.
and they have huge fan bases and followings where it's just game, and I'm like, okay, I know what that experience is. Like growing up, I would watch, my older cousins play video games and get far and whatever. It's like that
Yeah.
harpens back to those days, and it's just like, yeah, okay, cool. But it's just it's not. Definitely play what you want to play. If you want to play a certain game, just play it. You'll
Yeah.
find your community. Like it'll come to you. It may not come to you right away, but it will. There's people that will
Yeah.
enjoy that. It's just.
Yeah.
But if you want, fast followers, fucking play Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
Play Dead by Daylight. Play any game that's trending,
Yeah.
like
See,
Lethal Company. Like I love
well,
Lethal
and
Company, but
yeah.
getting people to
Well, and
play
if
is
you
like an issue.
yeah, a lot of the games that are quote unquote popular tend to be FPS and make me like sick like
Yeah,
within
no,
5 minutes of playing it.
motion sickness is definitely a thing. I have to
Yeah.
turn off
And I
motion blur on every game I play.
yeah. And I think that's part of what because a lot of the games that people like sit down and just tune into are not games I can play. But there is something to it, especially when you want to take this seriously, which this may be something that we could probably go into in a different episode
Yeah,
is
definitely.
if you are wanting to take it seriously, how to play games that you enjoy that will appeal to your target audience.
Yes.
That's something I've been looking into. Um,
Hmm.
but but yeah,
Uh,
so
yeah, it's being a streamer in general, especially a VTuber, you need to have a thicker skin
yeah,
or try to. Like, not everybody can have a thicker skin when it comes to certain things. Certain things affect people differently.
yeah,
So it's like definitely get people to help support you in general. Don't audition for fucking companies. Don't do that.
yeah. Well, I would. Yeah,
Don't
no,
do it
I in a way,
unless
yeah,
that's your
just seeing what.
goal.
Yeah.
Is so I have a friend.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
she has been streaming for over a year now. She has
Yeah.
reached her goal because we was joking. I was there since day one.
Hmm.
Like I found her stream on TikTok, like her pre-stream debut on TikTok, and followed her since. And I've watched her grow, and she has like 1,500 subscribers on YouTube now. She's a YouTube streamer,
Ooh.
and
Yeah.
it was in a year. And she thought she would like we remember like for like 4 months she was stuck at the 10 of us,
Yeah.
and she grew to she's really doing good now. Uh, and it's just like you definitely need a support system in
Yeah.
general. Um, but like from
Well,
what? Mhm.
well, and you have to be very careful about that support system
Oh
too
yes.
that I'm seeing, and I feel like there are quite a few people who are discovering because they. The other day, I finally decided to click over from Call of Duty smut Twitter back to VTuber Twitter, and I was like, because once again, there's an issue where someone was saying stuff in DMs, and then the person they thought they could confide in with DMs decided to post shit everywhere.
Oh,
And it's
clout
like,
chasers.
yeah, which I'm like, how? uh, And maybe it's just because I don't know if it's because I typically find people who are older or
Hmm.
people who this is going to sound shitty of me to say, but people who work for a living, who aren't chronically online.
Yeah, have a different
But
mentality.
yeah, but it's like I haven't run into a lot of the things that some people are running into, and knock on wood, hopefully I don't. But I do sit here and I look at this stuff and I question it, and I'm like,
How did you
how do
let this
you
happen?
find
How did you let
in a
this
way,
happen?
yeah,
I
yeah,
I,
it-
I swear it's so funny. I lost track of what I was talking about earlier, and I just remembered now. So with my friend, her
Yeah.
goal was to eventually audition for Niji Sanji.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, absolutely don't do it. Don't, absolutely not. Because her
Yeah.
her favorite is the now Matara-kan.
Oh my god. Yeah, I okay. So no, because I cried for like 48 hours. Like I wish I were joking,
No,
but like
I
I would cry and then I would go to sleep and then I'd wake up and I'd start crying again thinking about it. And and so yeah, and so now if it weren't for one of the reasons why I'm in this is because if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be here
Mhm.
because I'm like, damn, I'm too old to be fucking doing this shit. Like I
Oh
barely feel
yeah.
old, like you know. But then it's like, I'm not sure if she's our age, but I know she's all older,
Yeah, I
and
think
so I'm like,
she's just,
well,
maybe she's a little bit younger than us
yeah,
by a little bit.
yeah, and so I'm like, well, shit, maybe I'm not too old for this. So yeah, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be here. But continue.
Oh
I'm
no,
sorry.
so she's just like talking about it because of her specifically. She wanted to join Niji Sanji, and I'm just like, don't do it, don't fucking do it. And then she's seeing
Yeah,
all the stuff, and it's like, it's a bad idea. But
yeah,
that age thing you just said reminded me. So I have a lot of VTubing friends,
yeah,
like a lot of them, for who knows what reason. It's just I make friends with VTubers now. That's what I
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And one of my friends was talking on stream. I just happened to pass her stream. I'm like, okay, let me just tune in. And she was like, guys, am I too old to be VTubing? And it's like, hold
Oh
on,
my god.
what did you? How old?
What did
She's
you
like,
say?
She's like, I'm 22, and I think I'm getting too old to be an anime girl. I'm just like, you shut the fuck up right now. You shut your fucking mouth.
Right? Like,
22,
oh
you're
my,
like old. What the fuck? And in internet standards, we're dead. Like, we're
pretty
fucking
much, yeah.
deceased. But
Well,
she's just
I'm gonna
like,
be
oh god, I can't. Oh. No, go on. Oh.
to be fair though, back in the day, back when I was, doing drag and like just actually going out and touching grass consistently,
Mhm.
um, I watched a lot of Queer as Folk, and in my 20s, I'd always joke that when I turned 30, I'd get a death day cake because Brian Kinney in the show, um, was one of the older gays in the show, and he turned 30, and they got him a death day cake. So that was a joke. But now that I'm over 30, I'm like, it's still kind of funny, but not really. Like,
It's not funny, haha, and funny like, It's like,
yeah,
okay. So I sit there and contemplate my age a lot. Not
yeah,
like the fear of death or the end or anything like that, because death comes for everybody, so there's no reason to be
yeah,
afraid of it. But it's
yeah,
just like, damn, like, oh my god, I was in a stream and the song that was playing on the stream was Sakura Kiss from Oran High Host Club.
yeah.
That fucking anime is 20 years old.
Oh my lands.
That fucking anime is 20 goddamn years old. And I remember
No.
watching it on YouTube. And I'm like, the fuck do you mean? The fuck do you mean?
Oh my
Uh, so
god.
this is going a little tangent because we're coming towards either the middle or the end point of this for our
Yeah,
episode. So like an hour and a half should be fine. So we're winding down and just kind of branch. I think it's just going to branch off into nonsense after we talk about our main
yeah,
topic. So
yeah,
I my boy sent me a picture, a screenshot from Twitter, and
yeah.
it's Zoomers again. Zoomers being Zoomers, and they're trying to cancel Haruhi from the Mount.
Haruhi, what did Haruhi do?
So
Like,
the you know what? I'm gonna send you the image while I'm talking about it.
okay.
So because a lot of Zoomers like to cancel every fucking thing that exists ever.
Yeah.
Which is like, some things deserve it, some things absolutely do not. So this is the thing he sent me, and it's that I So if anybody's
Uh,
ever watched the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, it's a very it's a show, right? It's a show that exists. So the specifically the tweet that somebody posted was when Haruhi was trying to get the computer club to give over a couple computers. And what she does is grab one of the dude's hands and make him touch Miyuki's breast. Is that
yeah,
Miyuki? And she takes the picture and they basically use it as blackmail. And it's like at the time, it's like, haha, you know, she does anything by whatever means she deems necessary. But they're trying to cancel her because it's like that's not funny. That's assault basically. And it's like, hmm, you understand it's anime, right?
yeah.
You do understand like you I'm pretty sure the people who want to do that or have never seen the show or the
Yeah,
context of the show. Because if you don't know the context of the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, is that she's God but doesn't know that she's God.
yeah,
And she does basically does whatever the fuck she wants, whenever she chooses. So the scene
yeah,
in general is like they're trying to cancel her for that, and it's like sexual essay is not good in any context at all.
no,
Like not supporting it whatsoever. Haruhi did not care, especially in the early 2000s. The shows did not give a fuck about how you feel.
yeah,
And it's like, yeah, no, at the same time. It's like, don't support stuff like that. But, I mean, that is almost a fucking, that's more a decade old show. Like,
yeah. It's
kind of get
like the
over it at that point.
creators. Yeah, the creators have already cast that check in a sense. Like
Exactly.
it,
There's nothing you can do about it. Why you bring it up?
like my thing is it's like it, we can't. So we can't really focus on. I don't want to say we can't, but
We
really,
shouldn't.
what we shouldn't. But what we should do is we should kind of look at what things were, and it's like, okay, well, that was a thing that happened. Let's see what we can do to prevent the new things from happening
Yeah.
because this old thing is never going to go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Now, there's certain
so
things that happen that is like absolutely unforgivable
yeah,
that happen, you know. So, two examples of anime being fucking I hate it's like I hate life at that point. So,
yeah,
I was streaming Warframe, and Warframe is a very grindy game, so it's like a lot of standing still doing nothing.
yeah,
So, I typically watch videos with chat. And we were watching old anime, and we were watching one of
yeah,
my favorite anime to exist, Azumanga Daioh.
yeah.
So I was like getting people who've never seen it to watch it, and they got to a certain scene with the male teacher, who was a fucking creep,
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I can't fucking watch this. This is too bad. Because like
yeah.
the first words that come out of his mouth is like they ask him, "Hey, why did you become a teacher?" And he's like, "Because I like high school girls." And I'm like, "Oh,
Oh,
oh." And I'm like, was that even funny at the time? No, it wasn't. That was just weird. And as I got older, it's like, that's even fucking weirdo. It needs to not be a thing.
yeah.
And one of the old animes that I watched before was Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh yeah, Veroni Kitchen.
I can never support that ever again, especially with the new season that was coming out. I don't know if it got canceled or it came out because the creator, oh
Uh-huh.
my god, the creator, he was busted by Japanese police for having CP.
Oh no.
So much CP that they thought he was a seller.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I really
Yeah,
like
so
Rurouni Kenshin. It's like, oh,
yeah, so see in that instance it's like, okay, so Yeah, that was a thing we did, but now we don't do that thing
Yeah,
anymore.
we don't do it anymore. It's not
Um,
okay anymore. So let's go on from there. You can't just go back like,
yeah,
oh, this show from 20 years ago did this offensive thing. Let's get everybody who was involved canceled or, lose a job. Or it's like, ugh.
yeah,
Nobody did anything that was too terrible. It was a scene in an anime that
yeah,
showed of like how, unhinged she is
yeah.
and how
Well,
like, mhm.
and the thing is it's like it's not a well, depending on the anime, it's not a glorification of it. But the fact of the matter is, and I get that, people watch certain things to dissociate, whatever, whatever, but it doesn't make those things that happen kind of disappear.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, um, that's it. That's an unfortunate scene. However, uh, that happens to people.
yeah.
It
It
shouldn't,
it shouldn't, but it
but it
does.
does.
But it's not glorifying it either. But I could see why people were mad about it because nobody, like in the show in general, was like, "Hey, that's not okay." It was just like
Yeah.
it happened and just blah. But it was literally like I want to say it was like 30, 40 frames of a thing that happened.
Yeah.
And that's not like a common theme that followed the series.
Yeah.
Like if it was like SA constantly throughout the series, then yeah, definitely there's questions that need to
Well,
be answered.
yeah, because and this is gonna take me back to something even older than fucking I almost call it soccer kiss. High school host club. Let's talk about Dragon Ball. If we want to talk about
Ooh, we want to talk
adult,
about offensive shit? Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama,
yeah,
first of
R.I.P.
all.
bro. Like,
But
yeah,
Dragon Ball. We're going to talk about Dragon Ball, not Z,
Z
but Dragon
Dragon Ball.
Ball. All the
Mhm.
super offensive black people that were in that fucking scene.
Oh my god.
And it's like,
Um,
it's I laugh at it now because it's just so bad, right?
yeah,
And I know Akira Toriyama didn't do it on purpose.
yeah.
Well, I don't technically know that, but
Well, the thing about it is, and this kind of and I'll go into the whole history of Japan here in a second. Let me let you finish your what you're
okay,
gonna.
so it was like he didn't do it on purpose as far as I know. It's just how black people were depicted.
Yeah,
And Japan typically like older Japan was always like 30 years behind the US in anything.
yeah,
Like music, TV, pop culture, anything like that. They're like always 30, 20 years behind,
yeah,
especially the older Japanese people because they refuse to accept, Western world because of reasons we won't get into. Um, but yeah, so that's like typically how black people were depicted,
yeah,
big nose, big lips, and it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like that was a terrible time.
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
they rectified it kind of like the newer characters didn't look as cartoony, and anime
yeah,
gently evolved what the black character looks like
yeah,
into something more appropriate.
yeah. So part of the reason for that, and this is actually covered in the anime Yasuke, right?
Hmm.
The Netflix anime.
The samurai one,
So
right?
yeah, I loved it. A lot of people didn't like, but I loved it.
Oh
Um, the thing about Japan and Japanese culture is that they have, for the most part, been able to keep colonizers out of their mainland area.
yeah. Hmm.
So they weren't subject to the colonization, the Christianification of their culture, or what have you, because those people were not allowed outside of the ports of the country. They were not allowed to go into the middle of it, which is why it would be so many years behind, or it would seem that way,
Hmm.
because they were able to protect their culture for the most part for the longest time.
Now
Um,
let's segue. Japan was horribly xenophobic.
yeah. Oh
Just
yeah. No,
let's
they were.
I want to put that out there because people don't know or understand that.
Yeah. Um, which now in a global world it's about, but it's just there's so much that I could go into like history of like the mass colonization of things and we'd be here
Hmm.
all day.
Yeah, that would
But
be a different episode.
yeah. Um but just in general, because of that, and that I learned later on, it's like, okay, well, that's understandable why they would see it that way, because most of the people who were traveling were happened, to be generally not black people.
Hmm.
And most of the media that you tended to see around the world, particularly at certain times, were the minstrel shows, like the blackface,
Yes.
all that stuff. So for a country who's been kind of closed off, right? That may have been the only media that made it in.
Yes. So it would affect of how they would draw, black people in general. And
Yes.
Dragon Ball originally was definitely not. It was just not. Ew. It was very
Yeah.
iffy.
Yeah. It was. But it's just, and I think that's part of the problem in general these days, is that people want to see, they don't want to dig into things, right?
Hmm.
And so when we start talking about cancel culture and people canceling, it's like, they'd rather read that one tweet
Hmm.
or that like teaspoon level of depth like wiki article and be
Hmm.
like, or read that one thing that someone said that could have been clipped out of context
Yep.
and be like, oh, they're terrible, let's cancel them for it. Because if Dragon Ball would have been made in this day and age,
Oh my god.
you know,
Ugh, it
and
wouldn't fucking
yeah,
lasted.
it wouldn't have lasted. But like, and what I'm saying is like, looking at it this day and age, while not considering the lens of which it was coming from. Like
Yeah,
now, yeah, it wouldn't, because yes, the information is readily available. But what I mean is, people trying to cancel it now doesn't make any sense. But
yeah,
they would, because they're like, because they don't know, they don't want to learn the
yeah.
history of maybe why it is what it was.
A lot of people only want to look at things through a modern lens,
Mm-hmm.
and not saying that like it was okay that they did it back then, right? Not
Yeah.
really, not saying that it's okay or it should be just accepted, but you should
Yeah.
understand why it was like that. It is not like
Yeah.
that anymore. That's the that's the best part about it. That it's
Yeah.
not like that anymore, but there's a reason why it was like that.
Yeah.
And it's like what I said earlier, is like people don't want to allow change as a
No.
process.
They want it to
Because
happen right now.
yeah, because that's the internet culture how it is, Like
Yeah.
we grew up with the beginning stages of the internet. Nothing was
Yep.
fucking instant, dude.
No, back in those dial-up days, trying to
Ooh.
sneak on the internet, trying to sneak on the internet at 3 a.m., turning it on. Yeah, it's like, oh shit.
And then somebody
Um,
picks up the phone, the internet cuts off.
yeah.
It's like, oh, the we that's another whole episode. That's a
Yeah,
whole
that's what it is.
um.
So
But in gen, for this episode, we did talk about the black companies and the issues with Niji Sanji. We didn't go too into detail, like we didn't dive really deep because first episode, we both work, so getting
yeah,
too much research was like, even though like we had what, a week to prepare. But we
yeah,
again, we work, we're fucking working adults, dude. We
yeah.
didn't have time for that shit. So we just basically gone off what's on top of our head and what we were thinking at right now.
Though, yeah, though to be honest, I do like. I mean, there should be a general concept of the episode, but to be honest, there's so much that's interwoven that it's like if we tried to stay within a framework,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't think it would have flown. I don't think it will flow as easy as it did now, even though it was all over the place.
yeah,
Um,
that's just
yeah,
that's how our minds work, right?
yeah,
Like
right,
nobody is always coherent unless like they're doing a specific video on a topic, right?
yeah,
So it again, it's a podcast and we're just sharing our thoughts on what a general topic would be. We kind
yeah,
of went off the rails like 45 minutes into our conversation because it branched off naturally. So
yeah,
we were talking about black companies in Nijisanji, which talked about VTubers in general, which branched off into streaming,
yeah,
which all of those things flowed, and then streaming with VTubers turned into anime talk and cancel culture in general. So I believe that we stayed in context of what we were talking about,
yeah,
but like titles definitely will have to be, polished up to overall to what we're going to be talking about, a general, thesis of what we're doing.
yeah.
And we will be talking about anything and everything. I will be picking next week's topic, which I already have the idea, which is
Okay.
hobbies.
Oh,
From drawing to music to anime to playing games. Different types of games, tabletop games, card games, because I call myself a hobby whore. Like
yeah,
I start a lot of hobbies and I'm into a lot of things. So I want to talk about just hobbies in general and the people that are into those hobbies.
yeah.
And I have a lot of experience on this. Like Nagi is our resident V Shoujo not V Shoujo, V tubing expert. She she has a PhD in anime, like I do.
No, I wouldn't say
I
that.
I have a PhD in anime. I know way too much. I've seen way too
And,
much.
yeah, same.
And with so like her topic today specifically was an area that she is, you know, an quote unquote an expert in, because like you can't really be an expert in a lot of things.
Yeah,
But she's proficient in the VTubing sphere.
yeah,
So we're going to talk about our main focuses, stuff that just come to mind, and then we'll start branching into other stuff. Like if
yeah,
specific things are like a real big issue at the time, we'll definitely talk about that. But each episode will be, us talking about the main topic and then most likely just branching off into other things.
yeah.
We want to have like a bigger structure. Like we want to end the streams with something
Yeah.
that's like, because if we talk about a serious topic, we don't want it to, go
Hey
the entire
there.
thing. We want to bring you down from the serious topic for something fun.
Yeah.
So we have to work on that. But this again, this is our first episode, and honestly, I don't care if anybody watches this or listens to this. This was actually really fun, and it
Yeah.
allows me to just talk, which I don't normally get to do with people. And it's
Yeah.
amazing because Nagi and I are around the same age, so we have a
Hmm.
lot of the same experiences. Just
Yeah.
growing up in general, it's like we can just shoot the shit with that. For future episodes, like way like maybe fifth or sixth episode, maybe I would
Mhm.
like for us to have like we talk about our topic, talk about separate topics, but also interweave like personal stories about that.
Experiences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
personal experiences about what we're talking about, so we just don't seem like we're talking out of our ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's typically what we're going to do. Again, I am the Lord Tokai. You can find me on twitch.tv/the Lord Tokai. I forget how to stream sometimes, so I don't stream often, but I do want to stream, and you can find me on Twitter at Lord Tokai.
And I am Nagini. You can find me on Twitter at Nagini. They call me Nagi. And on Twitch as they call me Nagi. And on Fansly as at Nagini.
It's the same for everything. Follow her on
Yeah,
Fansly.
yeah.
Just
I haven't been able to stream consistently because like we've said repeatedly, I work a lot and I actually technically work almost 2 full-time jobs if you think about it.
mm,
But yeah, so catch me. I'll try to, post in the Discord, post on Twitter, etc. when I'll be streaming. It's so random right now. But yeah.
yeah, you won't fucking see me. You won't even know that I'm streaming. You'll just see me. I'll just be streaming. Because I don't know how to post a schedule, period. It is like I don't keep up with it. I work from
Yeah.
3 to 11 p.m.
Yeah.
I would like to stream after I get home from work, but I'm fucking exhausted. So most likely I'll be streaming a lot on the weekends, which is Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's it for our first episode. Thank you guys for watching or listening.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.